Hi, it's John from North Star Nursery, Garden and Home, your coastal gardener. Hey, we have been trying to plan ahead for you guys always, and this is another one of those moments in time where we're kind of thinking ahead to spring blooming, some of the spring blooming shrubs that we get in. One of our suppliers just released a lot of their camellias, and you guys have been asking for camellias kind of erratically, but and we've had them erratically. So I'm trying to correct that situation. And so one of our new growers grows a significant variety of camellias and azaleas. Most of their camellias are in 2-gallon. The rest of the azaleas are, or sorry, not the rest, but the azaleas are in 2-gallon and 1-gallon pots. We do have some other varieties coming in, but that would be from Oregon later on in February, March, depending on what the weather does. So part of the challenge with doing this is that none of them are blooming except for some of the Sasanqua varieties, and I'm going to go over the different varieties. Right now, we are going to focus on Camellia japonica, which is the base family of any of the hybrids. So Camellia japonica does very, very well here on the coast, blooms consistently. It will do on the coast to about 2 miles in full sun. It can take a little bit of shade, but honestly, on our coast with the fog and whatnot, it's going to bloom better in the sun. 2.5, 3 miles inland, you can give it some morning sun, afternoon shade, and that's fine. But they do bloom better with more sun exposure. And of course, in the valley, you can't grow them in full sun because they would be very upset with you and they would burn. So starting off with the japonicas, we have one variety called Kramer's Red. I'm just going to name them right now. I'm going to show you pictures in a minute. Kramer's Supreme. Then we have Nuccio's Pearl, which is a gorgeous flower. We have Ace of Hearts, which is a red. We have a variety called Sensation, which is fragrant, so that's really fun. And then we have another variety called Buttons and Bows. So I'm going to pull up my handy-dandy high-tech iPad and show you some pictures. So, can you see that, David? Okay, so this is the first one, which is the Kramer's Supreme. It's a double red, very pretty. And then this, love. This is Nuccio's Pearl. So the gentleman, I'm not sure what his first name is, but there's a lot of hybrids in camellias, azaleas that are from Nuccio. So this is just a gorgeous flower structure. I love it. The next one is Ace of Hearts. Nice flower structure on this also. Not quite as tight, a little bit loose, almost lotus flower looking. And that's Ace of Hearts. Next we have Sensation, which has a really, really great ruffled flower. Heavy petal count, really nice. The other one that I really love, this is Buttons and Bows, which looks a little bit like Nuccio's Pearl, but has a little bit more of a ruffled petal and that darker outer that fades to almost white. So gorgeous, gorgeous Camellia japonicas. Okay, actually, you know what? I'm gonna keep this up here because, again, most of them aren't blooming. So I think that's. Hold on, I'm having second thoughts. Sorry, David. Thank God you can roll with me. Okay, so japonica azaleas bloom in the spring. So for us, they're usually starting to bud up now. And then they bloom, usually starting kind of February, March-ish, kind of going into April. These varieties are smaller leaf variety called Camellia sasanqua. And sasanquas are what we call kind of the Christmas flower because they start actually blooming clearly now and go through Christmas. So this variety is called Silver Dollar. And I think it's because it has a silver dollar white-sized flower. Very pretty. Again, blooming now. So if you want something that's going to be a fall-winter bloomer in your garden, sasanquas are where it's at. So that's Silver Dollar. The other one that's not totally dissimilar from Silver Dollar, let me see if I can find, there's the flower. They're a little faded. This is, oh God, I can't, Setsugaka. It's a tongue twister. So another white with just a slight pale blush on the edges. So again, blooming now through Christmas. Great option for that winter garden that doesn't have much going on. The next one is Kanjiro. Again, another, this is actually also a sasanqua. And let me see if I can find my pictures. Oh, that's what I did. So this is Kanjiro. Not sure if that's gettable. Hard to get. Okay. So that's the sasanquas. First off, care and in general for camellias. So again, we talked about the sun exposure and whatnot. If they're in pots, they need to be watered regularly. If they're in the ground, after the third year, they're kind of self-sufficient. They would still like some maybe deep soaks after they're done blooming, and also maybe in the late summer if we're getting warm like we've been for the last few days. They can also just be put on a drip system. That's fine. You see them a lot of times in the old gardens, kind of by the house, sometimes not far from a downspout. That's fine too. Great bloomers. They're not usually problematic when it comes to disease. They are sometimes problematic when it comes to insects. So the one insect that has a tendency to be problematic for it is scale. Scale is that insect that looks like a little abalone shell on the actual stem of the plant. And then what it ends up doing is the leaves get covered with the sooty mold. So that's that black mold. And people always think, oh, well, I have a fungal issue. Well, that's actually a secondary issue of the sucking insect, either aphids or scale. If you do have scale and you do have sooty mold, the suggestion is to wipe the leaves off with rubbing alcohol so that you get that mold off. Otherwise, those leaves are going to fail because they can't photosynthesize. When it comes to spraying, you would spray with the horticultural oil. And this would be used once a week for 3 weeks, making sure you spray tops and bottoms of the leaves. If you have scale, you really have to make sure you hit the stems so that you get good coverage on suffocating those scale insects. Fertilizer. So I didn't grab any, but you can use two things. This is the EB Stone Organics Azalea, Camellia, and Gardenia food. This would work great. So traditionally what we do is we fertilize after they're done blooming, and then we fertilize again in July. Everything that I've read about camellias and azaleas is that you can fertilize after bloom and you can fertilize up to July. Starting in August, you want to pull back because you don't want to push a lot of new growth, is what the recommendation is, even for California. So that new growth can sometimes just get frosted down in the winter, so they don't want the plant to waste its energy. So after bloom and then again in July. Let's talk about azaleas. These guys are so much fun. I'm in love with this one variety, but let me see. Wicked. I'm sorry, I'm a little scattered. Don't mind me. There are two varieties in this form. You can see the petals are kind of elongated and narrow. So this is Wicked. The other one that's a sister of it is called Dragon, which has that. I love this one. I just think the petal setup is really, really fun. It almost looks like a fringe flower because it doesn't hold that traditional azalea shape. So, can I move on? Okay. This one is a really hard one because there are not very many photographs of it. I am in love with this because, of course, it is variegated. I think it would be a great accent to a garden because you would have foliar interest year-round, and then you have that bright red flower in the spring. It says that the leaves get tinged with pink a little bit when we get colder, which could happen for us in the deep winter. So you have that kind of multicolored leaf. This one is called Phoenicio, I think. No, sorry, that's pink lace. And then, can you see that? Okay. This one is, yep, that's pink lace right there, sorry. That other one I think was Phoenicio. Ah, that's a beauty. This is called Madonna. It's a double white, kind of an irregular double white. So, very pretty. This one was a really hard one to find a good picture of. It's called Ivoriana, and it has the flowers are white with a blotch of a reddish orange. So kind of an interesting flower. I think it's going to vary a lot. So the flower coloration is going to vary a lot flower to flower. And some of the flowers might even be a solid, that kind of reddish tone on its own because it's not a stable flower setup as far as how it blooms. It can bloom erratically with different colors. So kind of fun and kind of a surprise, you might say. All right, so that is the azalea photo part. On azaleas, they're not traditionally bothered by too much. Once in a while, they'll have aphids or whatnot in the blooming period. Haven't really struggled with them much. One of the things with azaleas is that a lot of people leave them alone and let them go to their own as far as not pruning it, not shaping it. It's really important with azaleas and camellias also, all plants, to kind of keep some shape to it. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of this nice dense foliage, and you're going to end up, you see them a lot in old gardens with azaleas that have, kind of like the rhodies, stems with leaves up here and some flowers. So what I would say is after it's done blooming, go ahead and come in and prune to shape. If this was mine and it was at home, all of this hovering upper foliage I would remove. But I would not remove it until after it's done blooming, okay? So I'm not going to do anything with this now. You don't want to do any fall or winter pruning on any of your camellias or azaleas because they are setting flowers for next year on the current wood. But after they're done blooming, the field is wide open for pruning and shaping. So don't be afraid to clip your azaleas. You will not regret it. On the camellias, as far as pruning is considered, I kind of go back to the same concept of the rose, where you want kind of an open structure. You would want to kind of pare down on some of the denseness that's happening in the center. I'm not going to prune this one because it just came in and I want to leave it to other people. But same thing, open up the center, remove anything that's pointing inward. And anytime you prune to an outside node. Here's a perfect example of somebody who pruned incorrectly. So they pruned to an inside node leaf. And so now that new growth that's glorious is coming inward. And what they should have done would have opted for a lower break point that would be pointing outward. So again, open the structure, but don't do that until after it is done blooming. If you have an old camellia and you want to reshape it, give it some love, you can prune, I would say, at a minimum of 50%. What I would say is prune to remaining leaves, just to guarantee. I have seen people prune down to woody nubs, and they sometimes regenerate, but it's kind of a 50-50. So if you're wanting to keep it, but wanting to reshape it, that's an option. So prune to outside nodes and keep it open structure. All right. I think that might be it. It has been gorgeous the last few days. So I hope you guys are enjoying this weather. By all means, don't forget to check on those little babies because they're probably a little thirsty with all this nice sunny weather. We are continuing to have lots of fall plants in right now. So if you haven't been in the nursery lately, come and check out what's going on. And we will see you here.